The pandemic has changed nearly everything this election cycle, from the way candidates campaign to how people are even voting. We brought in Matt Irwin, Democratic strategist, and Trey Watson, former communications director for the Kentucky Republican Party, to discuss.
It's affected how campaigns are going out and reaching voters because it takes a lot of things off the table. And something has to fill that vacuum, whether it's campaigning virtually and through text messages or holding teletown halls. I mean, really, I think campaigns are looking for any port in a storm to make up for the fact that you can't have a traditional field game in an atmosphere like this.
I think definitely campaigning, it especially hampers, I think, challengers because the traditional tools that you would have where an incumbent, you're starting off in a name ID gap usually against an incumbent. The tools that you would have going out as a candidate, meeting people, knocking doors, going to forums, parades, all these are the places where you would get your name out and get your face in front of people. Those are simply unavailable to you right now.
As for the politics, I think that it's really pretty stark how elected officials of the two different parties have approached this. I mean, you have, and this is my opinion, you have elected officials, Democrats like our Governor Andy Beshear, who've taken measured steps and who's addressed this thing through science-based and data-driven activities. And then you have other, let's just use governors, other governors like Ron DeSantis in Florida who've been saying, you know, have at it, world. Like, whatever happens with the virus happens.
I think that politically, I think it's probably crystallized partisanship even more so than we have been, because Republicans think Republican governors have done a good job. Democrats think Democrat governors have done a good job. And so I think it's, if anything, it's crystallized a lot of partisan divide that existed on the wings, and then you kind of left with a shrinking center who's kind of stuck in the middle trying to decide which way to go.
Both strategists also discussed the number of options that Kentucky voters have to cast their ballots in a pandemic.
I think that people should be pretty proud of their leadership in Frankfort and how they've managed to build what I think is a fair and engaging system for voters during this pandemic. I think a lot of states have dropped the ball, either through incompetence or partisanship. And I think our governor and our Secretary of State and our county clerks deserve a lot of credit for creating a system that, at least here in Kentucky, lets people know that their vote will count.
I agree with Matt as far as how the election is going to run. I think we've got a good system in place. I don't necessarily like everything, as I've made vocally clear. I don't necessarily like everything that we've got in place as far as a permanent structure. But you've got to make exceptions for the extraordinary times that we're in, and I think people can feel safe in their votes being counted and the election results being true here.